All right, Thad, what's up, man? Welcome to Dad Edge.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, man. What do you say we start out with some fun questions real quick?
All right, let's do it.
All right, man. So I'm dying to know this, dude. How tall are you?
I'm 6'5".
6'5". Dang,
Yeah.
man. So obviously you have three brothers. Everybody have similar height as well?
My brother underneath me is about 6'2" and a half, 6'3", and then I have another brother that was 6'2", and then my brother that's actually he's probably the shortest of them all. He's 6 foot.
Got it. Okay, cool. So you're
My mom,
definitely your mom's tall?
yeah, my mom's tall.
How tall is she?
She's like 5'11".
Yeah, she is tall. Wow. Yeah, man. Cool. Well, all right. Well, how about this for another question? Who has been your favorite person to wrestle in the ring with so far?
My favorite would probably be Rey Mysterio.
You know what's so funny, man, is I literally just watched his documentary last week on the WWE bio thing, and it was fascinating. And just out of curiosity, why Ray?
It was like my first televised, one of my first few televised matches ever, and it was just so fun. He's so good at what he does, and um, he's just he's smaller, so it's like you can do a whole lot of stuff with him, and a lot of cool stuff with him, throwing him around and everything else in between. But he is just, and then also too, he's just a phenomenal human being, and
Yeah.
wants the best for the business, wants the best, wants you to look the best, wants him, wants the best outcome to happen for both parties, and he's just a really great family man and great father. Clearly, he got Dominic in the fold now too, and great husband, just a great friend, and he's been a great friend to one of my best friends for years, Dave Batista. And so, I know how solid Dave is, and Dave thinks the world of him as well. So, and everybody does in the locker room. So, Rey Mysterio would definitely be my favorite.
That's cool, man. And I actually met Batista at the Arnold Classic years ago, and it's kind of interesting. Yeah, he's such a cool dude to talk to. Last question I have for you is kind of fun. How did you come up with the name Titus O'Neil?
My youngest son's name is Titus, and Shaquille O'Neal is my fraternity brother, but he's also one of my favorite, like, all-time sports entertainers. He did more than just play basketball. I mean, Shaq was rapping, he was in movies, he was in every other commercial you can name, pushing every other product you can name. And I felt like I wanted to be the Shaquille O'Neal of the WWE, where I didn't want to just be known as a professional wrestler. I wanted to be a superstar that can do any and everything. You can put me in a movie, you can put me on red carpets here, you can put me at a football game and commentate or do whatever, and I'd be just fine. So that's how I came up with Titus O'Neil. Of course, somebody thought that I should be Irish, so they took the A out and put an I in. So that's how I became Titus O'Neil with a Oneil instead of a Oneal, which was proposed. Either way, they at least went along with the name.
Gotcha, man. I did not know that. It's always fascinating for me to hear how you guys obviously create the stage name that's associated with you. Just moving on to obviously some of the more serious topics, around being a dad, husband, father, man, growing up. Obviously, for you, you've mentioned in videos and other podcasts that your mom is your hero, and I would just love for you to explain to the audience why that is.
My mom is my hero just simply because, I didn't know how I was conceived. I didn't find out how I was conceived until I was 17 years old. Me and my mom had a very tumultuous relationship, growing up. And for the longest period of time, I really despised being around my mom. And I ended up going to the Florida Sheriff's Boys Ranch and was doing really well up there. And my mom took a very random trip to come up. And I thought I was getting sent home, which made no sense at the time because I was, doing really well in school. I was #1 recruit in the country in football, and I didn't feel like, that was the time that I would need to be going back home to Boynton Beach. And, she basically told me at that moment how I was conceived, that I was conceived via rape. And, she asked me, uh, you know, did I want to, I asked her, does she know who it was? And she said, yeah, she did. And she asked me if I wanted to meet him. And I said, absolutely not. And at that moment, my mom, all the hate that I had towards my mom instantly became love, turned it into love, because I realized at that moment that my mom was a kid, trying to raise kids. So it really explained a lot of the issues that me and her had, the issues that me, her, and my younger brothers had as well, with, not having much, kind of struggling to get by, in a lot of ways, not having clothes, shoes, you know, um, our living conditions weren't always the greatest. So uh, it takes a very strong individual to uh, to make a decision that they're not going to have an abortion, despite what happened to them. And this is not me speaking pro-life or pro-choice. My mom's decision was pro-God. That was what her faith led to her to do. And I feel like I'm an anomaly. Everybody that ends up in that situation, every female that ends up in that situation, please don't look to me and be like, well, look how he turned out. There are a lot of people that did not and will not turn out the way that I turned out, simply because they won't have the village wrapped around them like I have. They won't have the teachers, the coaches, the institutions, the Florida Sheriff's Boys Ranch, the Boys and Girls Club. They won't have all those resources at their disposal. So for my mom to make the decision, at 12 years old, that she was going to have me, albeit it's going to be a long road and a tough road, and against the wishes of many others, she did it, and fortunately, I came out on a very, very good side of life.
Man. So it really sounds like maybe the shift for you was seeing your mom in a different light was like, oh my gosh, like she's just a human being, right? A
Mm-hmm.
human being that obviously and went through something, and at 12 years old made probably one of the toughest decisions of her life at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, and despite maybe what other people were saying, she made that decision and it was done out of love. And that was a switch that just flipped for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing I want to point out is that that was her decision,
Yeah.
and the times that we're in now, I don't know that Thaddeus Bullard or Titus O'Neil would have even existed, or would have existed. Who knows? I just know from my circumstance and from my mom, like my mom never walked across a high school graduation stage. My mom never went to a prom. My mom never, stepped foot on a college campus. I was the first one in my family to graduate from high school. After I graduated from high school, my mom went back and got her and graduated from high school as well. I'm the first person to go to college, graduate from the University of Florida, which I'm very proud of. But my three younger brothers underneath me, out of the three, two of them are also college graduates. None of us ever had any college debt. We all went to school on a scholarship. My oldest son, TJ Bullard, now is on a full ride scholarship at University of Central Florida playing football. And I'm just, I have two other kids that I got to get, to that next level. I just adopted a daughter, Leah, and she's a junior. She's a basketball player. She probably won't have to end up paying for college either. And then my youngest son, Titus, who I stole his name to become famous. He's a hell of a football player, and will definitely have his pick of the litter as well to go to college. So I like to say that I broke the generational curse in my family in regards to education, in regards to a lot of things, and kind of set the path for my family. But I'm very honored and proud to have, three legacies to continue breaking that curse, along with my brothers. And now they're just now, they just had children, and they can kind of make that shape, continue that form for our family for years to come, hopefully.
How does it feel for you to defy the odds? And I know you're just by watching you online and knowing what I know of you, you come across as a very humble human being. But there has to be some moments. And I came from a crazy, chaotic childhood as well. I grew up, I didn't know my father. I actually didn't meet my father and have a relationship with him until I was 30. And that was by accident. I ran into him at a coffee shop. And so I know the pains that are associated with being in an environment where there's chaos and uncertainty and not even really a whole lot of safety. And I'm honored to say, like you, that I broke that pattern. I broke that chain. And there 99% of my life is spent, just moving forward, keep going. And then there's those 1% of the times where I look back and I'm just like, I feel really good about doing that. I could have been a statistic. I could have been, divorced 3 times at this point. I could be in jail. It could be dead, and I feel really good about the fact that this pattern was broken with me. But do you ever sit back and just acknowledge and appreciate that, like, hey, like this stopped with me?
Not really. I do so much for so many other people, and I'm so involved in the work and so involved in and just so in tune with like really moving people forward. I'm extremely grateful for everyone that invested in me when they had nothing to gain in return. And I don't know all their faces. I don't know all their names. I don't know how much they gave or how much time they gave. The only thing I know is that they did it with dignity. And so I'm a person that believes that we should treat people with respect and dignity. Some people say that respect is earned. I say respect is learned. It is earned in some regards, but for the most part, like sometimes people don't know what respect is or isn't. We didn't grow up all in the same situation where we learned how to say yes, sir, and no, sir, or yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. We didn't, all grow up with learning that you should open a door for a female or let a female pass before you. There are a lot of things that we take for granted based on our own circumstances that we don't realize that there are people out there with tremendous amount of differences, a great amount of like how they were even raised. And so for me, I just try to surround myself. I've surrounded myself with very, very good people that aren't afraid to, tell me, hey, that's probably not something we should be doing, or because I have some pretty wild ideas sometimes. I remember the first time I said I wanted to give away 10,000 gifts at Raymond James Stadium, which is the home of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the USF Bulls here. People looked at me like I had 4 or 5 heads, especially coming off the fact that we started the event at my church and with 200 plus gifts and then we, over the years, grew it and we moved it from the church because I wanted to, I wanted people to feel like they didn't have to give blood or, any religious, like I'm not a religious person. I'm a relationship person. My relationship is with God. And some people's relationship may be with Allah, and another person's relationship may be with the sun or the moon. And I'm fine with that. I think that all faith has their extremists, from Catholics to Presbyterians to Baptists to Southern Baptists, it goes on and on. But I think that all faith is rooted in love. And there were a lot of people from different faith backgrounds and beliefs that poured love into me and into my family. And so I just try to pour that back out. I'm very non-judgmental. I don't judge people. I don't care what, political affiliation you have. That's why, people always say, man, you do so much. And, you said have such a powerful voice. Like, why don't you run for politics, run for office? And I'm not, that would limit me. The minute I say I'm a Democrat or a Republican, I cut off half of my influence. And that's very unfortunate, but it's the truth. And then also too, like, I just want to help people. I don't want to sit in meetings, trying to figure out whether or not we should fix the AC at a school. Like, let's just go fix the damn AC. I don't want to sit in meetings to decide whether or not teachers should be paid more money. Just pay them more money. They're very underappreciated. The list goes on and on of issues that I have with people that are in that world. But at the end of the day, I think that love is a universal language. And regardless of people's dialect, whether you're in Japan or China or Saudi Arabia or you know, anywhere, like, you don't have to speak the same dialect, but I think love and respect are universal languages that can easily be transferred over to another culture, over party lines, over, you know, health disparities, etc. The list goes on and on.
Man, this was really unexpected, and I love that message. Just this universal language of love and giving. You come across to me as such a giver, you know, and you want to give back. The story I'm telling myself is maybe the reason you're such a giver is because you were on the receiving end of that in some way, shape, or form growing up. And you also know the other extreme of that, of not being on the receiving end of that and what that felt like. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think God made me a connector of people. He put me on this earth. He gives everybody different gifts and skill sets to allow them to be the best version of themselves. And he places people and resources around us to make us become better versions of ourselves. And it's really, you know, at the end of the day, it's really to glorify him and his works in you. And you don't have to be at church every Sunday or Wednesday or Friday to do that. I don't believe, you know, that the building is where the work is done. The work is done with us, you know. And God has made me a vessel for a lot of things, hope being at the head of it, because, you know, I was hopeless at one point, and I was insignificant at one point to a lot of people. I was labeled a kid that would be dead or in jail by the time I was 16. And I was headed down that path. And my work in the community, whether it's here in Tampa or around the globe, is all coming from the same heart, same place. Like, I just want to see people. I want to see people win in life, because I lost a lot early on in life, and a lot of it had nothing to do with me. It just had to do with my circumstance and my mom's circumstance, and we were behind the eight ball long before long before the rest of the pool balls were even put on the table. And you know, my goal in life is not now. You know, I said it in my Hall of Fame speech at WWE when I received the Warrior Award. You know, I've succeeded 10,000 times over. So I don't live a life to be successful anymore. I live a life to be significant, because there was a point in my life where I was very insignificant to a lot of people. And now that I have significance, and now that I am setting a legacy for my kids and my kids' kids, I want others to be able to go from being insignificant in some people's eyes to being significant to the ones that matter.
I love that, man. That is very inspirational. I want to get a little bit more micro and granular with significance. You know, you're helping people on a global level, right? In several different ways. And I also get the feeling that this is something that is so personal to you, because being a significant man, husband, and father seems like it's something that's really important to you. And maybe it comes from, you know, your upbringing of your mom, obviously having you at 12, growing up without a father figure in your life, even how, you know, you were conceived. But the question I have for you is, men who come from that mold, right, who come from adversity, and they have two paths to choose. One of them you already articulated, right? I could be over here. I could be dead. I could be in jail. There could be all kinds of horrible things happening, but I chose this way, and I'm choosing this way, and I'm moving forward on this path. As you move forward in this path, though, and you think about your boys, and by the way, congratulations on adopting your new daughter. What is most meaningful for you when it comes to significance as a dad?
Well, I am a dad, but I'm not a husband. I haven't been a husband since 2009. But as a dad, you know, I get to do something I never experienced as a kid. I never had, you know, the opportunity to say, "Good night, Dad, I love you," like my boys tell me every single night. I never had the opportunity to um, hear my dad or hear my dad say, "I'm proud of you," you know, like I get to tell my kids all the time. I never got a chance to purchase or get, my dad, I never got a chance to have my dad go and purchase, a new car. I've done that twice now with my daughter and my oldest son. So the significance of all those things, for me, it's just like, not only am I setting an example of, you know, the excellence that you should try to strive to give your kids, but also to like how you should strive to give to others. Like my kids know if I'm doing a community event, like there's no food or drink that is being served that I wouldn't eat myself. There's no gift that I would give on that day that I wouldn't give to my own kids. Because, a lot of people, and I applaud them for their efforts. They collect all these toys and then they just throw them in a trash bag and then they say, "Hey, here you go, Merry Christmas." There's no dignity behind that. There's obviously love and desire to give, but that 12-year-old kid that opens up that bag and he's got a teddy bear and a coloring book and a box of tennis balls, he might look back or she might look back and say, "Hey, thanks, but no thanks." And then they walk off. And then the people that gave him that bag might say, "Oh, that person was so ungrateful. They didn't even take the gift or the bag or whatever." It's not that they were ungrateful. You just gave them something they didn't want. So if we go to a restaurant and I order a steak and they bring me out salmon, and I say, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I ordered the steak." And they may come back and say, "Oh, well, we just got this salmon fresh from Alaska, try this and that." I'm not going to go back and forth with somebody because I have that option. Like, this is what I ordered and I want my steak. Whereas these people that are coming in need, they don't have that opportunity to say, "I don't want." And then they're looked at as, when they do it, they're looked at as, "Oh, that person's ungrateful." No, it's not that they're ungrateful. It's just that they don't have a use for that. I want my kids to understand the significance of what you give people, the significance of how you talk to people, the significance that how you love people and how you love yourself is going to live a lot longer than that gift, than those words, than anything. It's how you do it. And we want to operate in excellence. We don't, none of us in this household want to strive for success. Like, we know that's going to be a part of the process if you work for excellence. Excellence keeps the bar and the standard of what you want to achieve in life at a very high level, but it also forces the people around you to understand and know, hey, man, if you're trying to have a birthday party for that dude, like, you have to bring it. You know what I mean? Like, cupcakes and ice cream ain't gonna work. You know what I mean? Just because we've already set that bar. Hey, if you're trying to do a community event with this guy, let me tell you, like, you're talking about 200 backpacks. This guy gives out 30,000 backpacks with school supplies included in them. Like, that's what you don't have to go out and get 30,000 backpacks to match me, but your energy and your effort to make sure this event is going to go the best possible, because that's where the significance come in. They might lose that backpack the day they leave the event. They'll never forget the event, though.
That's really cool, man. I love doing everything with excellence versus, just measuring it by, well, am I successful or not? Well, I don't know. Is it excellent? So, and it keeps that bar really high. And I love the messaging also around respect is learned, not always
Mhm.
earned, but it's learned. And I agree, especially if you're raising, kids, it's learned. You got to teach them.
Mhm.
As we wrap up to the end of the show here, I just want to briefly talk about your book. And
Mhm.
that there's no such thing as a bad kid. Writing this book, you mentioned your faith,
Mhm.
and that this is a big part of your life. Writing this book, do you look back on the writing of the book and the release of the book as this is another part of me being a vessel that's a part of my faith to maybe send this message out to the world that there is no such thing as a bad kid? Is that accurate at all?
Yeah, absolutely. And it has less to do. I mean, yeah, it may apply to my faith, but it may not. And, to me, I didn't write it with the we're gonna make sure the Christians get this message. We're gonna make sure the Muslim. You know what I mean? Like it was a you know every city you go to, you'll see somebody call a kid a bad kid,
Yeah.
and I was a bad kid for years. You were called a bad kid for years, and we never were bad kids. We were kids making bad decisions in bad environments, around bad influences, and having bad outcomes. You take those same exact kids, you put them in a good environment around good people, they'll have a greater chance to succeed, and therefore they'll have greater outcomes. My book is definitely an expression of where I've been, and trying to get a small gauge of why I think the way that I think, why I parent the way that I parent. Um, and I'm actually working on a second book now, and it's on fatherhood and
Awesome.
uh, and the honor behind it. And so often we, as humans, um, allow some of the simplest stuff to kind of like ruin our day, you know, or we let some of the simplest people, when I say simple, I mean like simple minded people, ruin our day. You post a picture of you and your family on Instagram, and you got, oh my God, a beautiful family, all beautiful family. Then you got that one person said, God, your kid is ugly. And that ruins your whole day. Why? You know, like if they don't know you personally, don't take it personal. And even if they do know you personally, they don't they don't control like your narrative. For years, and even now, we're allowing social media to control the narrative. We're allowing the news to control the narrative. We're allowing politicians to control the narrative. Like, at what point are we as human beings going to say, you know what, I'm going to control my own peace and my own space, because there are certain things that are just not important to me that may be important to other people, and I'm okay with that. We're in a time, especially here in the United States of America, where everybody wants to get everybody to think alike, where everybody wants to get everybody to feel the same and to be the same, in some regards, and think the same. That's not how this world was designed. You know what I mean? Our differences make us better and greater for each other. The people that are coming in from other countries and making a life for themselves in this country are making this country better, you know? Um, and for those that are doing it legally and doing their best to try to live the quote unquote American dream, some of them are still living the American nightmare because they were not born here, because they still don't speak the language, because they still are having trouble, finding a job after COVID. The list goes on and on. My book is a very transparent uh, expression of how I feel, how I walk, how I talk, and why I feel and walk and talk that way. Um, you won't ever see me bash the lesbian and gay community, because I had members in my family that were lesbian and gay, that were persecuted by my own family members, many of them who I still haven't spoken to this day. Um, so when they say, oh, well, you're such a staunch advocate, my daughter, who I just adopted, is gay. And I remember someone, asking me, how's it feel to have a daughter that's gay? And I said, my immediate response, because it's the truth, um, how's it feel to have a son that's an asshole? Because their son is an asshole, and, uh,
Yeah.
uh, you know, my daughter's sexual orientation doesn't determine whether or not she's a good or bad human being. But your son's behavior, and he's straight, is going to end up landing him in jail, you know? Um, and so we're not even talking in the same stratosphere when it comes to human being, regardless of my daughter's, sexual preference. She's an honor roll student. She's a hell of a basketball player. Most importantly, she's a very loving and caring individual that I decided to adopt because I've known her for years. The circumstances around me adopting her, her mother was having some health issues, and she's from Canada, and I was asking the question, what would happen if, the unfortunate were to happen because of these health issues? And she said that Leah would have to go back to Canada because that's where all her family is. And I asked, well, what if I adopted her, And she said, what? And I said, yeah, I've always wanted to have a daughter, and I'm not physically going to have any more kids. And if I were to ever have a daughter, Leah would be, the perfect person for me to have as a daughter. I said, let me speak to my sons, about it and see what they think about it. And I talked to them at dinner, and they were all on board with it, and sent them a text message in the group. And they were like, yeah, hopefully she knows this is a competitive family. That's what my youngest son, Titus, said. And, it's been awesome, so far. And the reason why I went there from the book is because my life, if you look at my life based on the book, has been impacted by so many people from so many different walks of life. Like, I have zero room to be racist or prejudiced towards anybody, There were people in the lesbian and gay community that helped me. There were people in the white community that helped me, Black community, Hispanic, etc. The list goes on and on. And I don't look at people and say, oh, well, yeah, this white man, yeah, he really did a whole lot for me. No, this man did a lot for me. This woman did a lot for me. This person did a lot for me. And I think that people just focus on what folks are doing as opposed to what they're not doing, we'd be in a whole lot better situation. I'm not a perfect man. I know I'm not a perfect man. I'm not even trying to pump fake and portray to be one. But I know I'm a really good man. And I can lay down at night knowing that I'm a really good man, and that people around me will, if I were gone tomorrow, they would all say he was a great man. And there's a school that bears my name on it now, and I'm still alive. So it ain't like they got to go and try to name something after me. It's already a school named after me. But there are thousands and thousands of lives that have been impacted by the work that I've done and the words that I've imparted in certain people's lives. And a lot of it is, honestly, if people knew half of the stuff that I've done, aside from what's publicized, like, they would probably be trying to write me a one-way ticket to heaven, or raise money to do it. I don't do it for all of that. I've never, the work that I was doing at school, I didn't do it to get my name put on the school. I did it because it's the sixth highest zip code for children living in poverty in the entire state of Florida. And I saw a vision, and I saw a promise that can be fulfilled there if I focused all my efforts to make sure that not only that school, but that entire zip code can get some love and attention wrapped around it, so that we can honestly move the needle of health disparities. And, I've got partnerships with hospitals. I've got partnerships with tech schools. I've got partnerships with Metropolitan Ministries, Feeding Tampa Bay, which is part of the Feeding America Network. I got partnerships with Bay Area Legal, Career Source to get people's jobs, so, the infrastructure is there and continuing to build to make a lot of bad kids or bad people become all of a sudden great people because they have resources and a place to go where, if they work hard and they stay consistent, their life will be changed and turned around for the better.
Man, Thad, you're doing some good work, man. This has been an inspiring podcast on significance, giving back, contribution, growth, defying the odds, and fatherhood. So, man, thank you so much for giving your time today. I want to make sure that you're going to have a lot of new followers from this show. I can tell you that much. We've done almost 1,000 episodes. You know, the podcast is very established. It's been around for 7 years. Had amazing people like yourself come on. And what I have found is when the audience really resonates with a story and themes like you have today, man, they're all in. And so I want to make sure that the men can find your book, your website, have eyes on the next book on fatherhood coming out, which, by the way, I would love to have you back to talk about that, to help you launch that. And then also any social media handles that they can follow you.
Yeah, you can follow me at excuse me, at Titus O'Neil WWE, and BullardFamilyFoundation.org is my foundation. BULLARD FamilyFoundation.org. I gotta get some water.
Yeah, you're good, man.
But at Titus O'Neil WWE is all my social media handles. And yeah, for those that listen to this and are inspired in any way and want to help with the work, free to donate at BullardFamilyFoundation.org to help support that. But also, if some of your listeners are in the Tampa Bay area and they want to connect, they can also do that as well. I do believe that it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a community to raise a standard.
Yeah.
And if you go to certain places, you understand that more so than others. If you go and you see where roads are, clean and fixed, you see that there's not a lot of graffiti on the thing. Like, you see where the community said, no, not here, not now. Our schools are going to be great. Our roads are going to be great. Our parks are going to be great, and that's all because the people in that respective community decided that that's what's going to happen. And then, therefore, they have the power over the politicians because they can vote yay or nay as to whether or not a person takes office. And they're really basing it more on, is this going to affect our home, or well over their political beliefs? Because some people's political beliefs are on both sides or all across the board. But one thing you can't politicize is family, your well-being, and your right to live a free life here in the United States of America. So regardless, I think all people, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, all feel, that their health is important. There are ways of going about trying to ensure that everybody can partake in that. Maybe a staunch difference in those things, but I would tell people to vote. I will not tell people who to vote for. It's your vote. Go and vote for who you want to vote for, because at the end of the day, I don't live in your respective community. And it happens, once or twice a year where people get all galvanized and, folks coming and asking for money and telling you all the great things they're going to do, and then you don't hear from them for 2 years or 4 years or whatever their terms are. If you really want to get involved and you want to change people's lives, do it starting in your community. Go and tutor at a school, go work at an after-school program, go feed the homeless, go find a homeless shelter or a feeding shelter that you can give back to, and go find a shelter for battered women, or whatever your passion leads you to. Raising money for pediatric cancer, raising money for breast cancer awareness, prostate. There's a million things that you could be focused on as an individual that you can control and feel much better about. I'm doing something, as opposed to that one day you go and vote and then you're like, oh, I did my civic duty. Well, your civic duty goes long past that. And I think people need to understand that. Like, don't get so wrapped up in the political process that you completely forget that we're all human beings, and that for 364 days after that election is over with, whenever that election is, you're going to go back to your reality. Those other people are going to go back to their reality, and the world is going to continue to move on. And whether or not you're going to be a significant piece in that positive change is a decision that you have to make as an individual. And I try to make that decision every single day that I wake up in the morning, because I am extremely grateful for everything that I have in life. And everything that I had to endure was for a purpose and a reason. And I understand it a lot more on the backside than I did in the time that I was in it. And so I know there are a lot of people out there that are going through something at this moment. It could be something with a family, something with your health, something with bills, still backed up because you got furloughed or laid off and you just got back on your feet to try to work. I mean, there are a million different issues that we're all fighting. But the one constant is that if you keep your hope and you keep your faith and you work hard and stay consistent, consistency leads to breakthrough. And I look forward to seeing and hearing about all the great breakthroughs that your listeners and followers are going to have over the next, few months to close out 2022 and head into 2023 on a winning note.
I love this, man. So first of all, guys, I'm going to have all these links in the show notes for you. Obviously, Thad is doing some amazing work in the world, and let's go support him in some way, shape, or form, whether that's donating to his cause, whether that's following him on social media, or that's doing something in your own backyard at a local level, like he talked about. The way we change the world is we start at the local level with the community. Thad, this has been awesome, man. And I just honor and appreciate you, the work that you're doing, the man that you are, the dad that you are. And thanks for giving of your time today, man. This was incredibly inspirational, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me share your platform.
You bet, my man. Gentlemen, you don't have to look far. Head on over to thedadedge.com/399 for this show. Again, thedadedge.com/399. We'll have everything in there for Thad's websites, how to support him, how to follow him. Let's go do that, and let's do that together. Thad, thanks again, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, go out, live legendary. Take care.